This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. If you're looking for cards in the US, look no further as you can use the promo code MTGMUDSTA to get you 5% off anything on the site. Or if you're in Canada like me, you can use the same promo code at Multizone to get 10% off your orders of singles. If cards aren't what you're looking for, Original Magic Art has playmats, tokens, and sweet art that you can use that same promo code to help you get 5% off your order there. If you're looking to bling out your cards, using Alter Sleeves is a great way to do so, and you can click the affiliate link in my About section to help out the channel as you make an order. And if you just want to help out the channel, you can always consider becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month and join the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game is another multi-zone matchup, and I've rebuilt and re-sleeved my Zedruu deck, keeping a Mountain, Cast Out, Faithless Looting, Prairie Stream, Enduring Ideal, Felwar Stone, and Form of the Dragon. Jean-Francois, aka JF, is playing Esika, keeping Command Tower, Luxury Suite, Snow-Covered Plains, Vault of Champions, Teferi Temporal Archmage, Kinnan, and a Rampant Growth. Charles is playing Prosper, keeping Marionette Master, Mountain, Reckless Endeavor, Mortuary Mire, Rakdos Charm, Swamp, and Cut to Ribbons. Chris is playing Edgar Markov, keeping an Ashnod's Altar, Reliquary Tower, Enlightened Tutor, Marsh Flats, Swamp, Drana, Liberator of Malakir, and Demonic Tutor. Chris wins the die roll and starts us off. Chris plays a Godless Shrine, taking 2 so it comes in untapped. He then casts Enlightened Tutor to save some time, and goes to find an artifact or an enchantment. I play a tapped Prairie Stream. JF plays a Vault of Champions, passing to Charles. Charles just plays a tapped Mortuary Mire. Chris finds and draws his Skull Clamp, and then plays a Swamp in his main phase, and casts the Skull Clamp, passing to me. I play a Mountain, and pay 2 mana for a Felwar Stone. I then ship it to JF. JF plays a Command Tower, and ramps with a Rampant Growth. Charles just plays a Mountain, and passes. Chris plays a Marsh Flats, and cracks it, taking 1, and then takes 2 more as a Blood Crypt comes in untapped. He then casts Yahenni, and gets an Edgar Markov Eminence trigger. Responding to this trigger, Charles uses Rakdos Charm to blow up the Skull Clamp. Chris then gets his token, and decides to move to combat, hitting Charles in retaliation for 2. I play a Shivan Reef, and take 1 as I tap it for red to cast a Faith Looting. I draw 2, and then discard Form of the Dragon and Sphere of Safety. I then suspend a Resurgent Belief with 2 suspend counters, and just pass to JF. JF plays a Luxury Suite which comes in untapped, and taps a blue and a green for Kinnan. He then taps 2 more mana for Talisman of Conviction, and passes to Charles. Charles just plays a Dragonskull Summit, and passes turn. Chris untaps, and casts Demonic Tutor. He goes into his library to find a card, and suspiciously plays a Scrubland afterwards. He then passes turn. I remove a suspend counter on my Belief, and play a Polluted Delta as my land drop. I then flashback Faithless Looting, drawing 2 and discarding Ghostly Prison, and cast out. I then crack the Delta, losing 1, and go and find a tapped Irrigated Farmland, and pass to Jean-Francois. JF plays a Spectator Seating as his land for turn, and then just passes. Charles draws, and plays a Swamp. He looks at Chris's graveyard, and then decides to pay 4 for Prosper. At the end of turn, he exiles a Mountain to Prosper's ability. Chris's turn has him going straight to combat, and Yahenni goes to JF while the token heads at me. Chris then pays 3 for Drana in his post-combat main phase, and gets another Vampire token from Edgar Markov's Eminence ability. My upkeep has me removing the last suspend counter from Resurgent Belief, and I get to cast it, bringing back Form of the Dragon, Sphere of Safety, Ghostly Prison, and Cast Out. With Cast Out entering, I target Kinnan with the End of the Battlefield trigger. Jean-Francois responds by activating Kinnan and whiffs, and then exiles the creature. I then draw for turn, and play a Hallowed Fountain untapped, taking 2, and then cast Zedruu, and follow up with a Torpor Orb. I then pass, and at the end of my turn, my life total becomes 5. JF plays a land for turn, and casts Darksteel Ingot in his main phase. He then plays the Prismatic Bridge side of his commander, and passes to Charles. Charles draws, and plays a Mountain from Exile, getting a treasure token from Prosper's second ability. He then plays out Wild Magic Sorcerer, and passes to Chris. He exiles Light Up the Stage to Prosper at the end of turn. Chris plays a Swamp, and goes to combat. He swings the team at Jean-Francois, and Drana deals 2 first strike damage first. This triggers her ability, and he puts a +1/+1 counter onto all attacking creatures. This has the rest of his team dealing 7 during the normal damage phase. In his second main phase, Chris then pays enough for Ashnod's Altar, and passes to me. My upkeep has a Form of the Dragon trigger and a Zedruu trigger hitting the stack, and I resolve the Dragon one first, dealing 5 to Chris. I then respond to Zedruu's trigger, taking 1 from the Shivan Reef, and giving away Cast Out. I then resolve Zedruu's trigger, gaining 1, and drawing 1, and drawing for turn. I then play a Steam Vents, taking 2 so it comes in untapped. I then pay 4 for an Academy Rector, and go to combat. Zedruu goes into the red zone as she swings at Chris for 2, and I then pass turn, with my life total becoming 5 again. JF reveals off the top of his library for his bridge trigger until he hits the new Draco. He then draws for turn, and in his main phase, plays a Prismatic Vista, and cracks it, losing 1 to find a basic. He then taps enough to cast a Brilliant Ultimatum, exiling his top 5 cards, and having Charles make the 2 piles. JF decides to take the pile with Vorinclex, Coalition Relic, and Sigarda, casting them all. He then moves to combat, and swings Vorinclex at Chris, who can't block, and takes the hit for 6, and JF then just passes. Charles untaps and draws. He plays a Spinerock Knoll, hiding away one of his top 4 cards as the land enters tapped. 4 mana then gets him a Grim Hireling, and he swings Prosper at Chris since he's open. Chris takes the 1 commander damage, and Charles makes 2 more treasures from the Grim Hireling trigger. He then casts from exile Light Up the Stage, paying only 1 red thanks to Spectacle, and makes another treasure token from Prosper, and cascades from the Wild Magic Sorcerer. He hits Commune with Lava, and casts it for 0, making a treasure token. He then exiles his top 2 cards from Light Up the Stage, and Charles passes. At the end of turn, Chris casts Fracture to destroy my Torpor Orb, and Charles remembers to exile a card to Prosper. Chris draws and sacrifices a token to the altar in his main phase for 2 colorless mana. He then taps the rest he needs for a Malakar Blood Witch, and this gets him an Eminence trigger, making him a 1/1 vampire token from Edgar Markov. The token then enters first, followed by the Malakir Blood Witch, and its Enter the Battlefield trigger drains each of Chris's opponents for 5 life and gains him 15. This takes me out, which has Kinning coming back as Cast Out leaves play. Chris then uses Despark and targets Vorinclex, and JF activates his Relic, which has him putting 2 counters onto it because of Vorinclex before the Praetor gets exiled. Moving to combat, Chris swings Drana at Charles and the rest at JF. Jean-Francois blocks a Hinu Sigarda, which has Chris sacrificing a token to the Aetherborn to make it indestructible. Charles then takes 3 from the first strike, which has Drana pumping the rest of Chris's team. Normal damage then happens, and JF takes another 3, and Chris then passes. JF reveals off the top from his bridge trigger and hits Valky, God of Lies. As the god enters, JF gets to see everyone's hand and exiles a creature card from it. At this point, Charles makes a bit of a mistake, as you can see by him ticking down from 5 treasures to 2, which he'd meant to use to cast Bedevil to take out Valky. Unfortunately, in his haste, he uses Cut to Ribbons instead, and that card goes to the graveyard. Unfortunately, we only catch it at the end of the game, but it wasn't like he didn't have removal in his hand that he could have used. And JF then casts Oko in his main phase, and upticks the Walker to have Drana become an Elk. JF then drops Teferi, Temporal Archmage. He downticks the Walker to untap 4 permanents. He then goes to combat, swinging Sigarda at Chris. Chris declares no blocks and takes the hit. Charles' turn has him playing a mountain from exile and gaining a treasure token. He then goes to combat, swinging the team at Chris and dealing 8. This gives him 2 more treasures from the Grim Hireling, and in his second main phase, Chris then casts a Marionette Master, which comes in, and he has the Fabricate trigger add 3 +1/+1 counters to itself. Charles then sacrifices 5 treasures, putting all the triggers on JF. Responding to the last one, JF activates Kinnan and reveals Old Gnawbone, but unfortunately dies. Charles then uses 1 mana to activate a Spine Rock Knoll, and he casts Warlock class from exile. Charles then casts a Direfleet Daredevil, exiling Chris's Demonic Tutor, and he casts that from exile as well, and gets a treasure from Prosper's ability, and goes to find a card to put to hand. Charles then sacrifices 2 more treasures, having Chris lose a total of 8 life. He uses that mana to cast Swiftfoot Boots, and then uses the last treasure to equip them onto the Marionette Master, having Chris lose another 4 life. Charles then passes, exiling forever the last card from Light of the Stage, and then exiles a card to Prosper. Chris untaps and looks at his hand. He sacrifices the Drana Elk to the altar, making 2, and then plays out a Callous Blood Mage. It gets him an Eminence trigger, making a 1/1 Vampire token, and with it entering, Chris loses 1 and draws a card. He plays a tapped Triome, and then sacrifices the new token and the Blood Mage to make 4 colorless mana. He decides to cast Edgar Markov, but wants to go out swinging. He turns his creatures sideways, putting a +1/+1 counter onto all of his vampires as he resolves the Edgar Markov on attack trigger. Charles blocks the Direfleet Daredevil on Edgar and takes the remaining 14. Chris knows when he's beat, and since Charles has the Master, extends the hand for a good game. Game review time. So I'm sure like many of you, if I see an Edgar Markov player sitting across from me, I typically assume we're all going to get beaten to death by vampire tokens. So today's game was a nice change of pace. This doesn't mean that Chris's deck wasn't good, in fact I think it was very good. It just seemed like he had to burn through a lot of his removal to keep other players from getting ahead. I'm very happy to be playing Zedruu again, not that I have anything against Elsha. I'm really looking forward to tweaking it a bit more and being able to find new cards like that sweet Resurgent Belief, which considering how early I cast it, did a lot of work this game. We didn't really get to see too much of JF's deck, it seemed like it had some dragons and some super friends, but we did film a second game with it, and I think that one showcases it much better, and with that in mind, I don't want to spoil what it does. I also really enjoyed Charles' deck. Prosper is really growing on me, and it's definitely something I want to consider adding to my Tymna and Vile Smasher deck. As for his misplay, I don't think it really changed all that much. I think he probably used 1 more treasure than he needed to, but beyond that he did have the Bedevil in hand and the Cut to Ribbons. And there are a multitude of reasons that he may have missed it or misplayed it, but frankly it doesn't matter to me because we all had fun. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.